Hello and welcome to Indie Journal's In Focus program, where we interview various personalities and talk to them in depth. Today we are fortunate to have with us Ashok Kumar Pandey sir, who is the author of books like Why They Killed Gandhi, Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmir or Kashmiri Pandit, and Kashmirnama, and especially in the recent times after the release of a film like such a contentious film like Kashmir Files, which has created a lot of discourse around the topic of Kashmiri Pandits, their displacement, and it has also flared up some communal tensions. So we are going to have an interview where we will ask Pandey sir about the details or the points which make up the together the Kashmir tragedy. So welcome sir to Indie Journal.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my first question would be, sir, this is a very fundamental question. You on your website call yourself a Marxist historian, or you have some influence of Marxist philosophy. You have some influence of Marxist philosophy. So there is.
In fact, if you allow me to say, there are three important influences on my writing. The first is Marx, the second is Gandhi, and the third is Ambedkar.
Right.
So,
yeah. So my question would be, does this make your history biased? Does this somehow pollute the process of history? Because
in fact, whenever you are writing something, there are two things. The first thing is facts. If you are picking and choosing facts, if you are leaving something behind and highlighting something, it's what you call pollution of history, polluting the history.
Right.
But as far as the ideology is concerned, as far as your views are concerned, this is something very peculiar, and this is something very personal to every writer.
Right.
Take any writer, just give me one name from anywhere. He must be having some inclinations, he must be having some ideological inclinations, and he must be having some concerns.
Right.
Like if, suppose Kashmiri Pandit is writing Kashmiri history.
Right.
It is a possibility that there's a stake, his stake is there.
Right.
If a Kashmiri Muslim is writing, there's possibility that there will be a stake. Similarly, if I am writing, I don't have any stake, but I have my interest there.
Right.
Now decide everything on those interests. If those interests are malicious, the history is polluted.
Right.
If those interests are not malicious, the history is not polluted. And so check the facts.
Right.
My books are in the market. Just check the fact.
Right.
See if I have hidden something. If there is something I have hidden, it is malicious.
Right.
If not, don't blame me for my ideological inclination.
Right. So you use Marxism as a tool to look at history.
Not only Marxism, I told you Marxism.
Yeah, exactly. All these ideological leanings. Yeah. Okay. So they are just simply tools to.
In fact, they are the tools by which you can stand with the common people.
Right.
When you are writing something, you will have to decide कि आप किसके साथ खड़े हैं. So I want to stand with the normal people. I want to stand in the favor of peace. I want to stand in the favor of coexistence. And these are the masters who teach us this.
Okay. Okay. So when you're telling the story of Kashmir and the making of this story, and even the title of your book mentions 1500 years of displacement, right? So what would be the stages or the incidents?
You have to read the book. It's a long history.
But in very briefly, what would be the major turning points?
In fact, Kashmir has had different kind of influences. Once there were Kashmir Hindu kingdoms, then there were Bauddha kingdoms. Then Islam came in about, you say, 13th, 14th century, and then Islamization of Kashmir started. And you know that this Islamization was two-pronged. The first was from the Sufis who came from Iran and other places, and the second was very indigenous, which we call Rishi tradition. Rishi is in itself a Sanskrit name.
Right.
So the Islamization took place, and a situation came where Kashmiri Pandits became a minority there, and their relation with the system, their relation with and Kashmir was attacked by exterior forces. Like Kashmir was under Mughal rule, then it was under Afghan rule, then there was Sikh rule, then there was Dogra rule, then it got independence in 1947, and the system changed, where Kashmiri Pandits were part of majority as far as the nation is concerned, but they were a part of minority in the state itself. So it was a very peculiar condition. So what I have done in my book is to analyze those peculiar conditions, analyze those historical, historical processes, and I have tried to locate Kashmiri Pandits socially and politically in those social upheavals, in those political upheavals, and that is what I have written in Kashmir and Kashmiri Pandit.
So as we spoke of incidents which shaped
Yeah.
Kashmir, what would be the personalities that you would highlight that shaped Kashmir, like the people?
There are many, when Akbar came to Kashmir, when Mughal rule come to Kashmir, most of the historians of Kashmiri historians as well as the outsider historians consider that was a period when slavery started. That was the first foreign rule for Kashmir when Chucks were displaced by Akbar. And what happened? Akbar was the foreigner, and he has displaced the Muslim elite from ruling of valley. But any foreigner, whatever capacity he or she may have, but he will need some local people for local governance. Now there were Kashmiri Pandits. Muslims were displaced, so there was no reason for Akbar to believe on the Muslims. So he chose Kashmiri Pandits. And there was a historical situation because Kashmiri Pandits also wanted to have some influence, also wanted to have their lives safe. So it was a situation when they I'll say accepted that we will go with the outsider. So from the time of Mughals, you will see that they are on the lower rungs of administration, revenue department and other department, and that continues till 1947. And after 1947, as I said, there was a very peculiar condition. They were part of the majority as far as the nation is concerned. They were part of a minority as far as that, and micro-minority in fact, as far as Jammu Kashmir is concerned. So for their well-beings, for their further, to have some influence, it was necessary that they were associated with the center, with the Delhi. They tried to grab as many as administrative posts. They tried to grab as much possible, this press. During 1990, most of the press reporters from Kashmir were Kashmiri Pandits, and there was that was why they were seen as an outside as a supporter of outsiders, and that created a rift between Kashmiri Pandits and Muslims. So what I say there was the historical condition was such that this animosity between Kashmiri Muslims and Pandits was created, and then.
Okay, but is there any specific actor which has influence or which has caused?
I don't believe on actors. There are historical situations, and in those historical situations, actors come and go. So I'm not going to blame any Sheikh Abdullah or any Jalal Kalam or any Dhar, because every personality, smaller or bigger, is a result of his own historical situation. If we are here, if I am writing on Kashmir, so it was a historical situation in which I found that there is no book in Kashmir, and the situation is such that we need a good book on Kashmir, so I decided to write. So the political players were also a result of the same historical situations.
Okay, so as you said, you've seen Kashmiri Files, and it is the reason we are talking. So what does it get right according to you? Get right, like it depicts correctly, or it.
Okay. I was in right wing, left wing. So look, I have said it many times. I have said it in my video, in my interviews, in my lectures, that there is no denial of the fact that Kashmiri Pandits, the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits was one of the biggest tragedy of independent India. There is no denial of the fact that Kashmiri Pandits were crucified by the state and by the militants. There is no denial of the fact that things like that, which has been shown in the film, happened there. So I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to cancel it कि ऐसा तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं था. It happened. But it was only one part. It was only one part of the total scene. It was not the whole scene. There were Muslims being killed. There were people from National Conference who were killed. There were girls from Muslim families who were labeled as Mukhbir, killed and raped. And a lot of things happened.
Right. So what would be a primary criticism of Kashmir Files, like the most fundamental?
In fact, Vivek Agnihotri had said it time and again that it's an agenda movie. And my criticism of the movie is that the agenda of the movie is the agenda of hate. It is a movie which gives no solution of Kashmir problem, which shows no way to Kashmiri Pandits, and which is only made, it creates the emotional appeal, naturally it creates, and that emotional appeal is against the community of this country, against everything which is there in our constitution, and this movie has a hate agenda. That's my problem with the movie.
So
It pick and choose what you said, a Malaysia's history.
Right.
It pick and choose incidents from that period and package it in such a way to create communal tension.
Right. Okay. So my next question would be, considering that there is some sense of Islamic terrorism or militancy from Pakistan, there is some religious color to it. So in which case, when it is discussed or when it is debated, how to separate religion from such a debate?
There is no reason to separate religion from such a debate. There is something to learn, that the religious fundamentalism is always dangerous. It is not only dangerous for the minority, it is also dangerous for the majority. You just see, Kashmiri Pandits left Kashmir in 1990s. 1990 to 97, they leave Kashmir, and now only 5,000 Kashmiri Pandits are there. Okay, so and they came out, they struggled hard, and now they have settled. Most of them are settled. So this is one part of tragedy. But there is other part of tragedy which is going on from 90s till now in Kashmir. And who is facing the problem? Who is paying for that? The Kashmiri Muslims. Fundamentalism and Islamic terrorism came into Kashmir via Pakistan in the name of Islam. And who are being ruined? The Kashmiri Muslims. You go to Kashmir, knock any door, knock any second door, and you will find a tragic story. Kashmiri youth is being ruined, Kashmiri industry has been ruined, Kashmiri society has been ruined, Kashmiri sanity has been ruined, Kashmiri traditions has been ruined. Every Kashmiri father wants his son or daughter to go abroad or outside to Kashmir to study and then get settled there. So I'm not among those कि वहाँ तो कुछ हुआ ही नहीं था और इस्लाम का नहीं था. Yes, Islamic fundamentalism was there, but the Islamic fundamentalism ruined the Islam in Kashmir, the Islamic people in Kashmir, and now the Kashmir is in a mess for last 32 years. Kashmiri Pandits are outside, they are having their own part of tragedy, and Kashmiri Muslims are in Kashmir and they are also facing their own part of the tragedy.
Right. So considering the malice that such misinformation spreads, or such communal tensions that such misinformation creates, do you think that in the left liberal space or whatever the progressive space,
Look.
I'm not
representative of any left liberal space.
I'm not taking in that. I'm taking a historian's view. I'm not putting you in a framework.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
asking you a very different question. I'm asking you, do you think that the progressive or the the good history didn't reach people or wasn't popularized?
Because it was not tried. Let me say it very clearly, whether left or right, they both have their own set of problems. While a larger part of left is based on denial, they kept on denying कि ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ था या इतना serious नहीं था. And there is right, which will see it only through the lenses of religion. Badla lene wala mamla. It should be avenged. That is what this film preaching. This is what this film is preaching. So there is problem with that left section and there is problem with the right section. I am of the middle path.
Yeah, my question was more related to the claim of the film. For example, many a times such messages and such films always claim to say, ये आपको कोई बताएगा नहीं या किसी ने बताया नहीं. Okay.
This is not true. This is not true. Nothing in this film, there is nothing in this film which has not been written or discussed. I don't want to mention my own book, but you go through Kashmir and Kashmiri Pandits and you will find everything there. This has been researched, this has been written, and this has been written multiple times. There are plethora of books on Kashmir, and most of them you will find are about after 90s. So information is there. The problem is people don't want to know much about Kashmir. In this country, the problem is in this country, in our country, everyone has his or her view on Kashmir. but most of them doesn't know about the history of Kashmir. Both of them, like just say the Kashmiri Pandits. Now Kashmiri Pandits are pole apart, are completely different from a Eastern UP Pandit or a Delhi's Pandit or Punjab's Pandit or maybe Maharashtrian Pandit. They eat non-veg. Their traditions are different. Their main festival is Herat. They are Shaiv. So ये हो सकता है कि they are here for 32 years, they are in Delhi for 32 years or Pune or Bombay, and they have been intermingled with the local society, and there have been adoption and all that. But if you'll go by culture, the Kashmiri Pandits culture is very, very different from the other Hindus or other Pandits. So Kashmir is a very different kind of place. Kashmir has its own set of culture, Kashmir has its own set of moral values, and Kashmir has its very, very rich history. But people don't have any interest in these things. They only love to see Kashmir with communal eyes, and they only love to utilize Kashmir and Kashmiri Pandits for their politics outside Kashmir.
Right. Last question, sir. So as you keep talking about, giving a solution to things. So Rahul Pandita, one of the major authors of a book on Kashmiri Pandits, he has suggested
that's not a book on Kashmiri Pandit. Rahul has written a very good book, but that's not a book on Kashmiri Pandit. That's a memoir. We must learn to differentiate between memoir and history. Look, personal memoirs will always have some kind of bias. I'm not blaming him, I'm not cancelling him, but memoirs cannot give you the history. Go by the history, go by the data, go by the other things.
Okay, but he has suggested that there should be a committee which will investigate everything again, and which will bring out the exact numbers and everything. So he has given that suggestion. So
that can give some kind of sense of justice. It has been 32 years. Most of the participants have either left total this insurgency, are now dead, are now irrelevant. So that I don't disagree with that thing. That can create a sense of justice, because ये problem तो कश्मीर में है कि justice has been denied. Every Kashmiri, whether a Pandit or Muslim, will claim that there has been injustice. So yes, open the plethora box, inquire all those things, but then again, you will have to inquire Kunan Poshpura also. You will have to inquire about those Benam Kabre also. There are so many cases. You will have to inquire Chhattis Singhpura. So there has been a series of injustice with Kashmiri Pandits, with Kashmiri Muslims and Kashmiri Sikhs. And if that can be inquired, a justice can be given, that will be great.
Any other solutions that you might...
Look, my thing is very simple. If you want to create a situation where Kashmiri Pandits can get back to Kashmir, you will have to establish peace in Kashmir. Without peace, they are not going. Employment is one thing, but even employment is dependent on peace. Until there will be peace, there will be no considerable investment. No capitalist is going to invest that much in Kashmir in such a situation where insurgency is going on, and you are having killings on daily basis. So thing is peace. Atal Bihari Vajpayee started a very good process of dialogue. He went on to have dialogue with everyone who mattered. Lal Krishna Advani, even Lal Krishna Advani invited Hurriyat leaders to his office, and there was a hope that some kind of peace, some kind of solution can be established. And that is the only way. Once you stop talking, we are having our army there for last 32 years. We have one of the best armies in the world, and we will have to now accept that the army couldn't solve Kashmir, and army cannot solve Kashmir. Army has a very specific rule against insurgency or against militants or anything. But as far as the socio-political thing is concerned, and Kashmir is a political problem, you'll have to accept that. And once you accept that Kashmir is a political problem, there will be a political solution. And once you accept that you need a political solution, you will have to go and talk everybody in Kashmir who matters. You will have to search for the people who really want peace there. You will have to go with them, you will have to provide support to them, you will have to provide safety to them, and start a democratic process where the Kashmiri people can feel that they're involved. This is the only thing. Until peace is until peace is established in Kashmir, there can't be any solution.
So as you saw, the issue of Kashmir is a very complicated topic, and of course it cannot be covered in such a brief interview, and yet Pandey sir has helped us understand the various perspectives involved in this issue. For more such interviews, please subscribe to Indie Journal's YouTube channel, and leave a like and share this video with your friends, and also leave your comments as a feedback on this interview. Thank you.